Hello, welcome to the Wise Way to Success podcast. I'm your host, Robert Wise, and today we are talking about intrusive thoughts. I'm actually going to call this episode From OCD to CEO, How to Overcome Those Intrusive Thoughts. So I did a podcast, actually I think it was my first episode, where I discussed having really severe OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, in which I had to do a certain amount of rituals per day. And if I didn't do the ritual the way my mind told me to do it, there would be a consequence, whether it's me getting sick or somebody I love getting sick. So I would continue doing these compulsions. Till one day I said, it's gotta stop. I gotta stop feeding these compulsions, because if I continue to do them, they're not gonna stop. Actually, they're gonna get worse. And that's the same with intrusive thoughts. So today I wanna talk about intrusive thoughts, what they are, and how to let them go. So I get a lot of clients that tell me, Rob, what is wrong with me? I'm having this horrible thought about a violent act, or I got turned on by something that they're like, why did I get turned on by this? I'm embarrassed. What's wrong with me? And I like to remind them, first and foremost, it's just a thought. Yes, it's an unpleasant thought. It's a scary thought. Sometimes it's a violent thought, a sexual thought, but it is just a thought. And what happens is we start to think that the thought defines us. Oh no, I had this intrusive thought about, hurting somebody or a child. This must make me a bad person, or something's wrong with me. Take a moment, take a pause to recognize it is just an intrusive thought. It's a thought. And just because we think something doesn't mean it's true. And I think that's a really important tool to remember when you have a scary thought, that it's just a thought. It doesn't define you. It doesn't make you a bad person. It's a thought. So I want to help you now how to overcome those intrusive thought feelings of what's wrong with me? Did I do something bad? Am I a bad person? And give you those tools and strategies to help you when you have those intrusive thoughts, not to let them define you, not to let them create a fear and a panic within yourself that there's something wrong with you. So my number one tip, recognize that it is an intrusive thought. So you're gonna label the thought as intrusive. So you get a thought about, you're walking in the grocery store and you're like, oh, I see this knife. I could just stab somebody with it. Okay, it's not a pleasant thought. It's a scary thought. Recognize this is just an intrusive thought. I'm not gonna act on this thought. It's a random thought. We get like 50,000 thoughts a day. Some of them are going to be unpleasant, some of them are going to be weird and strange. We don't even know why we got them, and that's okay. It doesn't matter why you have the thought. What matters is that you recognize it as an intrusive thought. So the first thing I want you to do is recognize that negative, scary thought as intrusive. You tell yourself, it's just an intrusive thought. It's okay. Number two, recognize your values. Does that thought jive with your values, with who you are, with your beliefs? No. So right there and then, this is not who you are. This is a thought. This is not about who you are as a person. So recognize your values, your belief systems. This is not what I value. This is not what I believe. I'm not a violent person. So what you're doing is you're reassuring yourself that it's just a thought. This doesn't define you, and that you're going to be okay. And I think that when we get these intrusive thoughts, which are really scary, we start to question ourselves. We question our morals. We question our ethics. We question our sanity. And I'm here to tell you it's a thought. An intrusive one, but it's a thought. So the third, and I think this is a great tool as well, is to accept the thought. Accept it. Accept it for what it is, a thought. I think that when we create this resistance or this, why do I have this thought, it creates more panic within ourselves. But by accepting the thought, accepting the negative, scary, intrusive thought, you're saying, okay, I had a negative, intrusive thought, and that's okay. I'm going to accept it. I'm not going to judge it. I'm not going to try to find the root of it. I'm not going to go back to my past and say, where did this happen that I started to get these type of intrusive thoughts? It could just come from something you watched on television. Doesn't have to be something that you experienced in a traumatic past episode. Accept the thought. So let's go back to the first three steps. The first step is you are going to recognize and label it as an intrusive thought. Number two, you're gonna recognize that thought does not define me. They're not my values, they're not my belief systems, it's just an intrusive thought. And number three, you're gonna accept the thought. It's a thought, I had it, it's okay. And number four, which I think is extremely important, is that we practice something called self-soothing and self-compassion. When you have an intrusive thought, you start to get scared, you start to get worried. In fact, you might start to question yourself in ways that could give you a panic attack. Oh my goodness, why did I have this thought? What is wrong with me? Am I going crazy? Am I going insane? Am I into kids? Am I a sexual predator? Am I a violent person? Do I want to hurt somebody? We start to create a state of panic. So what I'm going to ask you to do is bring yourself back by self-soothing. What would you tell a friend that would tell you that they had this intrusive thought? Would you say, oh yeah, something is seriously wrong with you. You definitely need to get help. Or would you say, it's a thought, it doesn't define you. You're gonna be okay. You had a thought and there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, it was a thought that was unpleasant. It was a thought that scared you. But you know who you are. You know your values, you know your beliefs. I think it's really important that we practice to implement that compassionate voice in our mind. It's our friend voice. It's the voice that we need to hear. It's actually our voice of reason. It's the voice that says, it's okay. You're going to be okay. And I think that when we have that really scary, intrusive thought, all we really want to know is we're going to be okay. That we're not a bad person and that we're not crazy and that we're not losing our mind. I think that what we need at that point is just that compassion. And I'm going to ask you to find that compassion within yourself. So it's really important that you are mindful of the way you're speaking to yourself. When you get an intrusive thought, it's important that you tell yourself it's okay. It's just a thought. And let the thought go. Let the thought go. Take it for what it is, an intrusive, unpleasant thought that has no real meaning. You don't want to act on it. You have no intention of acting on it. It's not something that you value, not something you believe. It's time to let it go. So as somebody who struggled with obsessive compulsive disorder and lots of intrusive thoughts, I recognize that the way out is to not give in. So today I'm going to ask you and encourage you to be your best friend and to show yourself kindness, love, and compassion. Whenever you find yourself experiencing an intrusive thought, tell yourself it's okay. It's just a thought. So I'm Robert Wise. I hope this episode helped you. I am here to help you. If you have any questions, comments, please feel free to send me a direct message, email me, check out my social media pages. I am here to help you. You are the Wise community, and we are on a mission to help people live their best life. I'll see you soon.